Anuradha Vedic Astrology. Today, we are here with Chandrasekhar Sharmaji. A warm welcome to you, sir.
My pleasure.
On another Anakalaniya Shloka. But before that, thank you all of you for liking, sharing, subscribing to our YouTube and Spotify channels and writing in your comments and suggestions there. If you haven't subscribed till now, please do, and please remember to press the bell icon so that you can get the updates on the videos and audios as soon as they are ready. Sir, you have a lot of Anakalaniya shlokas in your repertoire. Sir, today, which is the literature that we are getting this shloka from, and what does it say?
We are getting from Jatak Parijata, which was written by Vaidyanath, the great Vaidyanath. So, right. I mean, he is used to giving you shlokas which appear to be difficult to understand. But ultimately, all yoga or whatever we say are yoga are based on some sound astrological principles. So that is what is being said here. He said, Bhagya Shastra Navamsha Tanayage Bandhustite Van Rupo. That it could be even a printing mistake. It might be Bhagya Shasya, which means off instead of placed it. Drushteva Shashije Surendra Guruna Yukte Sa Rajapriya. इसका मतलब, I mean, this means the Lord of the Navamsha, in which the Lord of the ninth is placed. So we get some inkling about, sort of the Parijata Yoga is also like that. Lord of the Lagna and his placement in Navamsha, and that Navamsha Lord doing something and being able to deliver the result. That is what is going on here. Tanayage, if he is placed in the fifth house or Bandhu Sthiti, which is the fourth house, either of the two, then a person becomes a king. This is the first part of the shloka. This is relatively easier to understand than even the next part. So we first talk about the first part, which says the Lord of the Navamsha occupied by the Lord of the ninth. If he is placed in the fifth or the fourth bhava, then the Jataka becomes king. King means somebody who has wealth and power. I mean, let us never forget that king does not necessarily mean that everybody will have a coronet on his head. But it basically represents authority and wealth. So what is happening here? See, if we remember the basic principles, we know how a person's body is to be seen. They say it can be seen from the lagna, the ascendant itself, and influences on it from the different planets that are there, or from the Navamsha lagna, the ascendant of the Navamsha. So Navamsha bhavas have got very great importance. They sometimes overrule even the bhavas in the lagna, as we know that if a planet is in debility in the lagna chart, the ascendant chart, but is in exaltation in the Navamsha chart, then this will always overrule the other, because it is one charan of a nakshatra. People may always tell me that I don't use nakshatra. Yes, I don't use the nakshatra, but I use 1/4 part of the nakshatra indirectly through the Navamsha. So what is happening here is the essence of the ninth bhava. The Lord of the Navamsha occupied by the ninth bhava is placed either in the fifth house or in the fourth house, which means there is a connection between the strongest of the trines, the ninth bhava. He is expressing himself through the fifth bhava, first thing. So fifth bhava is acquired knowledge. So a person, if he performs his duties after understanding the whatever has happened in his life and learning from it and using it properly, obviously it will aspect the 11th house. So the wealth would be there. There is no doubt about it. And since these two, very strong trines come together, he is likely to have wealth and obviously by implication the authority. So, okay. In the fourth bhava, when it goes, it is even better. It is as if Lord of the ninth is occupying the fourth house, aspecting the house of the 10th house, house of authority. So we say again here the distilled strength of the ninth house is going to the fourth house and influencing the 10th house, which is the house of karma, which is also called the throne of a king. So this is how, that is why it is said in such a case, They are not talking about the ninth house by itself. What is being talked about is even the essence of the, we can call it the essence of the ninth house. And this is how, so this is a bit easier to understand, though this is also anakalaniya, that which is very difficult to understand. That is why I call it anakalaniya. Akalan means to understand, and anakalaniya means not being able to understand.
Sir, you just
That
make
means
the
at the first
principle
glance,
easy.
first glance.
Yes,
Right.
sir. No, sir, you make the principle easy, and when you are defining it in detail, when you're explaining it in detail, it becomes very smooth for us to understand that way.
Yeah, and I think that is what an astrologer should understand, that all yogas are based on some principle. They might appear to be sometimes, we might not at first instant understand that. Now the second part is Drishteva Shashije Surendra Guruna. Surendra Guruna means the guru of Lord Indra, which is Jupiter.
Jupiter.
And Shashije means son of moon, which is Mercury.
Right, sir.
So if Mercury is aspected or conjunct Jupiter, that person becomes a favorite of a king, isn't it? Now, how come? I mean, can they be placed anywhere, etc., etc.? All those things should come. And where
Right.
from the king has come suddenly, because neither of them is a king, isn't it? One is a prince, and another is the advisor to the king, which is called minister in English, but it does not convey the exact meaning. Here, mantri means somebody who advises the king, who has authority to advise the king, and from whom the king will seek advice. Now, why should it happen? It is also possible that this is referring to their being placed in the ninth, fifth bhava or the fourth bhava, because the shlok is, this is the second part of the shlok. So this va means or many a times. But even other way, so what could it be? So then we go to Sarvartha Chintamani, which says Divokasa Nrupam Mantri Kuryat. Divokasa means the Jupiter. Jupiter is called Divokasa. Pashan Budham Sada. If he aspects Mercury, he will always make that person advisor to the king. Shirasam Shasanam. Tasya Dharayati. Nrupalakaha. That means such a person is, I mean, worshipped like anything. We say holding somebody on his head means giving him great respect. Who gives him great respect is the king. So, what must be the reason behind it? Sarvata Chintamani does not talk about any specific bhava, but he talks about aspect of. I think it is more the aspect on the Mercury, which would be material, but even being with Mercury will be material. Because what king needs? See, there was something called as Vidushakam in ancient
Times. Yes, sir.
that Vidushaka does mean court jester. There were court jesters in even in the British king's cabinet. What does it mean? It means somebody who jokes around. But for a king to tolerate him and want him to be there means he had intellect enough. So his way of expressing was different. Through his jokes, he sometimes used to give some advice to the king. And we know that Mercury has a habit of, talking with pun words. See, one word meaning multiple meanings, one word with multiple meanings, making jokes of serious things, and ability to absorb knowledge. Jupiter is knowledge incarnate. So when these two come together, if you have a grasp of a situation very early and you can give advice, then the king always wants such a person with him. And that is why he says he is Rajapriya. He is loved by the kings. Sarvata Chitramani says he holds him on his head. So one of the same thing, he pays respect to the what we call the combination of the planet, a person who has such a combination. And we know that, see, two bhavas will be made very strong with this combination. Because whichever bhava is aspected by Jupiter gains strength, whichever bhava is aspected by Mercury gains strength. If they are together, even then they will aspect some bhava. They will be placed in one and aspect another. If they aspect each other, generally Jupiter only aspects Buddha. That is what is being said. So they could either be in 1/7 position or Jupiter can aspect from three different positions, as you know. And this is the crux of it, and that is why he is loved by the king, somebody who is smart enough and also able to give sound advice. This is what is happening with the Jataka, and that is why this becomes a really complex, because placement is not mentioned. Now, most of the translators have given what I have already given, but it's also possible that this might be referring to them being placed in the fifth house or the fourth house. Because when the Y is used, it means and or. And in that entire shloka, you will find Va coming 2 or 3 times. And it could also mean that if they are placed, like the Navamsa Lord is placed in fifth and fourth. Similarly, if Mercury under aspect of Jupiter is placed in fifth and fourth, he will be loved by the king. I think the second might be the right one, but since great acharyas have translated it like that, I have given that translation. I have also given my explanation how I feel when it will come out with its full force, express with the full force, and that is the
With this
Anakalaniya shloka.
Anakalaniya Shloka, we'll be back with another good one with Chandrasekhar Sharma ji because he has so many in his bag. Thank you so much, sir. बेल आइकन को दबाएं ताकि आपको वीडियोस की अपडेट मिलती रहे. हमारे वीडियोस को लाइक करें, शेयर करें, उन पर कमेंट करें और हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें. लव यू.